Well, I woke up this morning and I looked at this article, which sounded really wonderful. The headline read, Iranian president prepared to shut down nuclear site. I thought, wow, Putin must really be out there doing some fancy diplomacy. After all, he supposedly has gotten rid of Syria's chemical weapons. Now we turn around and he has met with the new president of Iran, Rouhani. Apparently he's talked him into getting rid of these nuclear weapons as well. It sounded really good until I began to read the article. Here's what I read. In an attempt to convince the West to lift international sanctions on Iran, President Hassan Rouhani is reportedly willing to dismantle the nuclear facility in Fordo, a site which is widely considered to pose a grave threat to Israel and the West. However, Iran has many nuclear facilities, so they're willing to dismantle this one in order to get the pressure taken off of them from the economic sanctions, which, according to the article, appear to be driving Iran into bankruptcy right now. So as we look at this whole situation, it's like, wait a minute, this is amazing. But then when you read the fine print, which is true with all contracts, well, then that's a whole nother story. Okay, so I want to talk to you about this today because when we hear about this, Syria, we hear about Iran, we hear about Israel, we hear about the peace talks, everything that's going on, and after a while your head's swimming. What's really going on here? I mean, they go on and on and on and on and on, and then they have a breakthrough, and after the breakthrough, it seems like nothing really happened except it was some fancy political footwork in order to make some politician somewhere look pretty good. Well, so you stop and you say, well, what really can I believe? Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what you can believe. You can believe the Bible. Everything else is shifting sand. But if you find it in the Bible, you can believe it. So concerning the situation in Iran, concerning the situation in the Middle East, concerning the situation in Syria, I found some things in the Bible. Now, the first one we're going to look at is Revelation chapter 13, actually chapter 9, pardon me, starting with verse number 13. Now, here's what it says. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Okay, that's catchphrase number one, River Euphrates. The four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the third part of men. That's catchphrase number two, to slay the third part of men. And then verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. So the army in this particular conflict was counted as being 200,000, and that's King James for 200 million. So there's going to be an army involved in this war that's going to kill 200, or an army is going to be 200 million soldiers. And the result will be the killing of 2.3 billion human beings. Ominous prophecy, to say the least. Okay, now, since it says Euphrates River, there are four nations that house the Euphrates: Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran. Well, this latest conflict with Syria had all the makings of this war right here, and we're not out of it yet, obviously. There was a Syrian helicopter that crossed Turkish lines yesterday, and Turkey chased the helicopter off. So there's still a lot of tension going on there. What's that going to amount to? Well, in the meantime, President Obama is meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel in a few days, and they're going to be discussing Iran. So out of the situation with Syria, we think we learned that if you up the military pressure enough, that you can force action. We upped the military pressure on Assad. We were threatening to attack within 1 week. It appears that Assad caved and said, we'll give up our chemical weapons. So we were able to get what we wanted from Assad, supposedly, without firing a shot. Now, there's a lot of controversy about this. They're saying it will take many, many years to go in there and to make sure all those chemical weapons are gone. By that time, Assad's war will be over. It won't matter that much anymore. I mean, there's all kinds of pros and cons debates going back and forth between the different parties, between the liberals, the conservatives, the Republicans, the Democrats. All this is going on. Okay. But what we're trying to do is find some truth. That's all we want. We want to know what's going on. So the truth is, there is a war coming from the Euphrates River area. That means it will either emanate from Turkey, Syria, Iraq, or Iran. We know that Syria and Iran have been the two hot spots along the Euphrates River. Iranians are fighting in Syria alongside Bashar al-Assad. And Iran has been pushing toward developing nuclear capability. Israel says you cross a particular red line and we will attack. This is an existential threat to us. Your president, Mr. Ahmadinejad, he has threatened us repeatedly. Ahmadinejad is now out of office, however. This new man has taken over. He has run on a moderate image. And now he's saying, okay, we will dismantle our Fordo facility if you will lift the sanction. Now, the word is that Iran is on the border of bankruptcy. That it says Iran can reportedly only avoid a national bankruptcy if the international sanctions are lifted and new money flows into the country. So it appears that the Iranian economic situation is worse than we have been told. It's dire. So now he's saying, look, we'll give up one of our nuclear sites. We'll keep the rest of them. But we'll give up this one in exchange for the loosening of the economic noose that the international community has put around us. Okay. Will someone fall for this? Sometimes politicians are looking for anything that can save face. They like to be able to declare victory and retreat. That's what we did in Vietnam. That's what we did in Iraq. That's what we're in the process of doing in Afghanistan. Declare victory and defeat and retreat. And when you retreat, you leave behind yourself a mess. It's worse than when you went in. And so you go home and mind your own business. Everybody thinks about someone else. Americans breathe a sigh of relief because we didn't want to be there in the first place. We were drugged into it by our leaders. And we're just glad it's their problem, not ours. And they've been having that problem for 50 years, and they'll have that problem 50 years from now. Who cares? It's irrelevant. Now, that's what's going on a lot of times. But what is relevant? What matters? Well, when you've got a prophecy of a war that's going to kill 1/3 of the human race, and that's what this prophecy is in Revelation chapter 9. When you have a prophecy like that, it matters. It matters to every single one of us. So that's the first thing we've got. Syria could still explode in our face. Or if it doesn't, Iran. Now, lurking in the background, as the world tries to get Iran to get rid of its nuclear weapons, and as the world tries to get Syria to get rid of its chemical weapons, every time they go to the international community to debate the issue, one of the Arab nations say, but what about Israel? Why do they keep theirs and the Arab nations have to get rid of theirs? We're not playing on an even playing field. Israel has never admitted to having nuclear weapons, but the whole world knows she does have nuclear weapons. They have a nuclear power plant in southern Israel in the Negev desert called Dimona. The whole world knows it. It's an open secret. It's a nuclear power plant. So does Israel generate any nuclear power? No, none. That plant is totally devoted to the creation of nuclear weaponry. A recent report said that Israel has 80 nuclear bombs. Other people say she may have as high as 200 or more. I don't know how many she has. But Israel says we have to keep this nuclear deterrent because we are surrounded with people that are poised and ready to destroy us if they ever think that we can. Israel actually calls its nuclear weapons program as the Samson option. Now, if you know the story of Samson in the Bible, Samson was a great deliverer. However, he disobeyed God. He lost his power. But at the end of his captivity, God allowed his power to return. At that particular time, the Philistines were making sport of him, making fun of him. They'd gathered all the lords, the big politicians of the Philistines together in this huge house, and they brought Samson in to mock him because they had captured Samson and poked his eyes out. He had bothered the Philistine people. He killed 1,000 Philistines at one time. Now he was under their mercy and they're mocking him. But in that sad state of affairs, God allowed Samson's power to return to him. He went to the pillars of the house, bowed himself with all of his might, and the house came tumbling down. Everyone within was killed. So those that Samson killed in his death were greater than those that he killed in his life. Okay, that's what Israel calls her nuclear weaponry, the Samson option. And what are they saying? They're saying if we go down, we're taking the whole house down with us. That's what they're saying. So they have these nuclear weapons. You say, you think they mean it? Yeah, I do. Why do I think they mean it? Because the Bible says nuclear weapons will be used at Armageddon. When it looks like Israel's going down for the count, in Zechariah chapter 14:12, it says, "This is the plague wherewith I will smite those that come against Jerusalem." This is the time of Armageddon. This is the plague. Their eyes will be consumed in their sockets, their tongues in their mouths. The flesh will fall off the bone. An exact description 2,500 years ago of the effects of nuclear radiation. It's going to happen at the Battle of Armageddon.